The day my grandmother died, my relatives didn't cry for very long. Before the flowers outside her house had even begun to wilt, my aunt was measuring the living room for renovations. My cousins were arguing over which bedroom would make the best Airbnb. My older brother was already calculating how much money each of us would receive once the house was sold. I was the only one who didn't want to sell it. Not because it was expensive, because it was home. Grandma had raised me there after my parents divorced. Every corner of that house held a memory. The old porch where she taught me chess. The kitchen where she baked cinnamon bread every Sunday. The tiny attic where she hid Christmas presents months before December. Before she passed away, she squeezed my hand and whispered one sentence. Some doors should never be opened by greedy people. At the time, I thought she was talking about family arguments. I was wrong. 3 days after the funeral, my brother Adam called a family meeting. "We've already received an offer," he announced proudly. My Aunt Susan smiled. "It'll sell fast." Nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody even looked at me. When I objected, Adam shrugged. "You only own a small share." The majority already agreed. A week later, Grandma's house was sold. The buyers paid nearly $3 million. My relatives celebrated. They booked vacations, bought luxury cars, posted smiling family photos online with captions about new beginnings. I accepted my small share without saying a word. They thought I had given up. Actually, I had just started. Grandma had one unusual habit. She never trusted banks with her most important papers. Instead, she hid clues inside ordinary objects. When I was a teenager, she turned it into a game. "If you can solve my puzzles," she'd laugh, "you'll never get lost in life." Most relatives considered those games childish. I paid attention. The day before the new owners officially moved in, I visited the house one final time. As I walked through the empty kitchen, something caught my eye. The old wooden cookie jar still sat on top of the refrigerator. Nobody had packed it. Instead of cookies, I found a tiny brass key. Wrapped around it was a faded paper tag. Only 4 words were written. "Library. 3rd shelf. Left." My heart started racing. Grandma had donated thousands of books to the town library over the years. One shelf there had always been called Margaret's Corner. I drove there immediately. On the 3rd shelf from the entrance sat an old gardening book with worn leather covers. Inside the hollowed-out pages rested a sealed envelope. Across the front she had written, "Only for the grandchild who still came back." Inside the envelope was a map. Not of the house. Of the entire neighborhood. One property was circled in red. An abandoned warehouse directly behind Grandma's backyard. There was also a handwritten letter. "If you're reading this, the house has probably been sold. Don't be angry. Watch what happens next. Love always, Grandma." I had no idea what she meant. Until 2 weeks later. The city announced the largest redevelopment project in its history. The abandoned warehouse behind Grandma's house wasn't abandoned anymore. It had been selected to become the entrance of a luxury shopping district. Every surrounding property immediately doubled in value. Except one. Grandma's old house. Because developers couldn't begin construction without access through the warehouse. And according to county records, the warehouse belonged to me. I nearly dropped my phone. Years earlier, Grandma had quietly transferred the warehouse into my name through a family trust. She never told anyone. Not even me. The paperwork had been waiting inside the envelope all along. Within days, construction companies started calling. Then lawyers. Then investors. Everyone wanted the warehouse. Without it, their billion-dollar project couldn't begin. Meanwhile, my relatives realized something was terribly wrong. The people who bought Grandma's house suddenly demanded a refund. They had discovered the property couldn't be expanded or renovated without warehouse access. The sale collapsed. The house returned to the market. Only now. Nobody wanted it. One evening, Adam knocked on my apartment door. For the first time in years. He looked worried. "You knew." I knew Grandma always had a reason. He lowered his head. "We made a mistake." "No," I replied calmly. "You made a decision." He sighed. "What are you going to do?" I smiled. "The same thing Grandma always did. Think ahead." Instead of selling the warehouse, I offered developers a different deal. They could lease the land for 99 years. The agreement earned more money than an outright sale while keeping ownership in the family forever. With the first payment, I quietly bought Grandma's old house back. Not for $3 million. For less than half that amount. The same relatives who mocked me for wanting to keep it watched in disbelief as I carried the keys back through the front door. My Aunt Susan whispered, "You planned this." I shook my head. Grandma did. Months later, I restored the house exactly as she left it. The porch swing. The flower garden. Even the old cookie jar returned to the top of the refrigerator. But instead of turning the house into a mansion, I transformed it into a community reading center where children could borrow books for free. On opening day, I invited my entire family. Most came expecting another lecture. Instead, I handed each of them a framed copy of Grandma's favorite quote. "Greed spends today. Wisdom builds tomorrow." Nobody said a word, because they finally understood. Grandma's greatest inheritance had never been the house. It had been the lesson hidden inside it. The people who rushed to sell everything lost what mattered most. The one person who valued the memories ended up protecting them forever. And every time my family drives past the old house, they remember the day they sold Grandma's legacy, only to watch me bring it home again.